Hello friends, my name is Kaysha and I'm a proud member of the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan. And I'm also a survivor of human trafficking. My trafficking began in Saskatchewan, moved into Alberta, and even crossed into the United States. I was stalked, hunted, and ignored by the very systems over the last 5 years that were meant to protect me. This is why, with my father Dale Richardson, we started the Karis Project. This is an Indigenous, survivor-led movement for humanity dedicated to exposing trafficking, government corruption, and holding institutions accountable. One of the most powerful tools that we are using is the petitions for redress of grievances. These are lawful constitutional actions rooted in Canadian and US law, and in treaties that tie us together across provinces, across states, and even across borders. These petitions are precedent-setting. They create a binding record. They demand accountability while representing reconciliation in action. Indigenous and non-Indigenous people working side by side to preserve liberty for all. But we cannot do this alone. We need your help to keep this movement alive, to raise awareness and to build a legacy of justice for Indigenous women, for trafficking survivors, and for families everywhere. Thank you. Please stand with us. Your support makes this work possible. Together we can restore justice, heal families, and defend freedom. And I will close with my favorite quote. The greatest want of the world is the want of men. Men who cannot be bought or sold. Men who in their inmost souls are true and honest. Men who do not fear to call sin by its right name. Men whose conscience is as true to duty as the needle to the pole. And men who will stand for the right, though the heavens may fall. Thank you.
Oops. Welcome to the Karis Project podcast. Today we have with us Peter Ticktin. He is a lawyer who has been working with the Ticktin Law Group. He is also a friend of Trump and also has done a lot of legal work as well, a lot of challenging cases, and also involved with Tina Peters. And welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here.
Yes. And sort of introduce yourself to our audience. Give us a little bit more of your background.
Okay. All right. Well, my name is Peter Ticktin. I'm 54 years old. I've been 54 years old for 26 years. I'm the same age as our president. I went to school with our president. And I practiced law for 54 years. And I'm still at what I consider to be top of my game. I'm doing trials and working hard 7 days a week. And I've thrown my hat in the ring to become the next Attorney General of the United States because I just don't know anybody else who would end up doing what needs to be done. And I know what needs to be done because at one point in time during the in-between years, 2022, 2023, President Trump had me in charge of marshaling the evidence regarding January 6th. And that led to me becoming, to some extent, a conduit of information to the president from people that had information that was worth passing on. I also have been fighting cases regarding weaponization. And I've been involved as well with other aspects of the fight. As you mentioned, I represent Tina Peters. I'm her lead counsel. I also represent Stephanie Lambert in regard to the cases against her. We just won one the other day. 3 out of 4. We got 1 to go, and we'll win that as well. But they tried to Tina Peters her because she was an attorney looking at the machines after the 2020 election.
Yes.
They sued. They brought charges against her and also another Stephanie, the clerk of the county, as well. So what these people do is they cheat in the elections. and they make sure that the machines have it really well developed so that they can determine the outcome of the elections. And then, God help you, if you're going to question it at all, like Tina Peters did, or like as occurred with Stephanie Lambert, then they come after you. Sometimes with criminal charges, sometimes with civil lawsuits, but one way or the other, they're there to silence you. And that's these are the actions that I'm involved in. So I'm well aware of some of these things that need to be taken care of and done by the Department of Justice, which are just getting swept under the rug, just not being done. You know, when you think about it, you know, and you realize that, you know, there's only one line of defense really to protect our country. I mean, yes, there's the military and there's other things, but there's only one line of police defense, and that's all the Department of Justice. It really needs to wake up and get things done, and it's not going to happen on its own. It's not going to happen by the people that are there now. It needs the
No,
right leadership.
absolutely. 100% agree on that. You know, like with the case of Tina Peters is a friend of mine and my daughter's, and her case is it's very close to home and so forth. And I don't like what they did to her. What they did was wrong. And even with the elections, like I'm a mechanical engineering technologist, and I did a lot of work with the COVID as well, and it was necessary for the election in 2020. They wouldn't been able to do a lot of the changes that they did without having that happen, and so forth. When I looked at it, there was a cause. There's a causal link between the two, and even the who was it? The NIH did a study on the changes of the elections based on the COVID pandemic response. Yeah, so they were well aware of this.
Yes. Well, we know there's a lot of things that need to be looked at, and there's a lot of people that need to meet justice that have been getting away with things all this while, where people just have not understood exactly what we're up against. I mean, if you were to consider the fact that the 2020 election was stolen, it was rigged, it was fixed, they were.
Oh wow! Of
Oh,
course, of
did we lose
course.
her just now?
Yes, we
Wow.
lost him for a second. Oh, yeah, he's looks like he's coming back. Oh,
Oh
wow.
boy.
Of course. Um, you start talking about certain things, and yeah, they don't like it. There you go.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, when somebody calls in on this, I couldn't use the computer, I had to use the phone.
No
And when somebody
worries.
calls, I lose you. So, what I was getting at in terms of the fact that I think I was talking about people need to find justice. The people that are basically fundamentally insurrectionists that have basically took over our country for 4 years. Uh, you know, let me just tell you what I think the part of the basic problem of what occurred before. I'm not talking about the basic problem of the insurrectionists. We know about them and we have to deal with them. But I think the first thing that needs to be done at the Department of Justice is we have to realize that there's a lot of people that have been charged uh, that are innocent, people that were basically MAGA, people that are, you know, I've found this through the weaponization work that I've done of really what's been going on in this country. And it really stems from about 1998 and after that. In 1998, we had 32% of all of our crimes were drugs. When we decriminalized marijuana, which I'm not against, so certainly a lot better than putting people behind bars because they partake. But you know, the fact of the matter is when we decriminalized marijuana and other soft drugs, we pretty well got rid of about 25% of all of our crime. But we did not reduce the number of of police officers, and we didn't reduce the number of prosecutors. So we have these folks that are still in the system needing now to rationalize their existence. I tell you, if I would have go to your neighborhood and increase the number of police traffic cops by 25%, that, that stop sign at the end of your block where you come to a rolling stop every morning, and nobody gives you a ticket because you didn't come to a full stop. Well, if we increase the number of police by 25%, guess what? You'd start getting tickets for that too.
Yes.
So what we have to a great extent before Merrick Garland, before Biden, before they stole the 2020 election, what we had were extra police that were just trying to rationalize their existence. But after Biden came in and Merrick Garland, who was a genius, an evil genius, once Merrick Garland got into place, then he directed the traffic. He directed where these things had to go. So if you were a mom that went to a Board of Education meeting, if you were a doctor that prescribed ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine or were in favor of the jab, or against the jab, I should say, or if you were a police officer where you were accused of excessive force, if you were a person involved in cryptocurrencies, if you were a MAGA person, upper middle class, making millions or tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, you became subject to getting falsely prosecuted for crimes that should not be prosecuted for. So many people, so many good people. The Department of Justice, a lot of people that I know call it the Department of Injustice
Yes.
because of this, and it has become the enemy of the American people. It needs to be for the American people, by the
Yes.
American people, for the American people. It needs to be part of our American government that is there. Once upon a time, I'm talking about, oh gosh, um, I'm talking about a long time ago. Uh, Not so long ago that when men were stealing boats for wood, but uh, I'm talking about when I was in law school. I was at my university. I became the chief of police of the student police force, and what we had was, and I'm sorry if this doesn't suit you, but this is what we called ourselves and said, and it was published even in our school paper. We had something we called the good shit policy. Okay. And in other words, we weren't out to hurt people. We weren't out to charge people with criminal offenses or whatever if they had alcohol or whatever substances. As long as they weren't hurting anybody and they weren't destroying property, we were fine. We didn't have an obligation to enforce the laws. We weren't the regular police that would have to arrest you if they saw you with a bottle of beer. It was when you took that empty bottle and threw it into the crowd so somebody could get beamed or injured by it. Those are the people that we were looking for. And as a result, one of our police could go into the football stands and make an arrest of one of the students and get the student's ID all by himself without backup, because the students around that police were in favor of the police. They knew nobody likes the guy who's urinating on top of other people or
No.
throwing the bottle or doing whatever. Nobody likes that guy. And everybody's happy that somebody's there to take care of that situation. We need to be police that are respected because of our honesty and our decency, not police that are respected because people fear us. Yeah,
Yes.
there's an element of that's necessary. So the very first thing that needs to be done is we need to find these cases, and we need to eliminate them because they're massive. They're throughout the system, and it's not a case here and there. It's part of the mainstream.
Oh, yes.
We need to end that. And
I
when we end that, guess what we get in return?
Well, you get some justice.
Manpower.
Yes.
No, then we get AUSAs that have time on their hands. And
Yes.
rather than and that gives us our body of people. That gives us the army that we need to go after the insurrectionists, to go after the people that are trying to destroy our country from within.
Yes.
So and enough of these excuses. I mean, the fact is, The president himself formed the weaponization department. Okay. And Pam Bondi declared it as well when she came into office. And Todd Blanche ended it. But he ended it long ago. He had Ed Martin. One, if there's anybody on Capitol Hill, if there's anybody up there that I trust, it's Ed Martin. Okay. You're talking about another American hero, another true patriot. And he gathered around him others. And I'm not going to name them all because I'll leave somebody out for sure. But he brought around him other really, really top-notch lawyers that were there. They were ready to just pound it. They were ready to go out and do their job. But instead, they were starved. I mean, it's almost as though it's the intentional way of frustrating the desires of the president. And we've got a president who finally, I mean, we've got a man who's got the intestinal fortitude. He's got the guts. He's got the wherewithal. He knows things that we didn't even think of yet. When he came in first and he started mentioning things like China and the border and things like that, nobody was thinking about these things. Nobody was worrying about these things, but he was so right on. And he needs to get back up by his Department of Justice. The laws, when he says that he wants something, his wish should be the command of whoever it is that's in his cabinet.
Well, and
You know,
I agree that the federal agencies need to get back in line, especially the Department of Justice, because when you look at what happens in the states and on a state level, the states are there's a lot of corruption there as well. Police aren't doing their job. I deal with this on a daily basis. The federal government is there to ensure that the states fall in line to the Constitution that they all agreed with. But when the federal government is not doing its job and the FBI and all the other federal agencies are not policing the states, then that becomes a problem. Then they can do whatever they want unconstitutionally, and you have no recourse, because normally if they go out of line, you go to the feds and say, hey, look at this. This needs to be dealt with. But this isn't happening. So it's just falling apart at the seams. And they have to have that to have order.
well, we have states such as Colorado, which have been what I call it a captured state. Because the fact is, it's captured by the left, and once the left have their way and their voting machines are such that they're never going to lose an election, you know, then they become all powerful. In Venezuela was exporting election results to 72 countries, of which the United States is just one of them, and it's changed the surface of the earth. Now there's a lack of freedom in so many places where we took it for granted. In the UK, they're arresting 30 to 50 people every day because they said something they shouldn't have said on social media or in their own texts. You know,
Oh, yes.
uh, that's not a free country anymore.
No.
And when you lose the freedom of speech, the freedom of speech isn't just the freedom of speech. The freedom of speech is the freedom of thought. Words are only labels for concepts.
Yes.
Yeah. So if I mention to you a tree, you right away you get the image of the tree in your head. You don't necessarily know what kind it is, whether it's a palm tree or a great oak. But one way or the other, you know what we're talking about because the word is a label for the concept. If you're
Yes.
not allowed to say the word tree anymore, what's going to happen is you're not going to be thinking about a tree, and you're not going to be conveying thoughts about trees. And so, whether it's the government that you want to complain about, or whether it's an individual, or the way things are going, whatever it is, if you're not allowed to talk about it, ultimately, what that really means is you're not allowed to think about it.
Well,
And here we are. 4% of the world is in America in terms of
yes.
population. Yet, what? Uh, if not the majority, close to the majority of inventions are here. Why? Because we have the freedom of thought. because we can go with our minds the places no man has gone before, woman has gone before.
Yes.
But it's all coming to a screeching end as the left have infiltrated our schools from K all the way through, infiltrated our media, taken it over, infiltrated most of our social media and taken it over. Not X, thank God, thanks to Elon Musk. You know, we've got. I mean, I could go into so many areas. Our big business, even the Catholic Church. I mean, we're looking at, you know, a world being taken over by a cabal. And
Yes.
what is that cabal? It's fundamentally China. It was Iran. I don't think it's going to be Iran anymore. It was Venezuela. I don't think it's going to be Venezuela anymore. It was Cuba. It's probably not going to be Cuba anymore. I mean, we're fixing this thing.
Yes.
But meanwhile, don't think for a second that it was just a different group of politicians in America that stole the 2020 election. It was stolen by foreign interests. And
Yes.
those that have committed a crime that can be punishable by death. We don't have many crimes that are punishable by death, but insurrection is one. And these people that basically stole our country to destroy it. I mean, think about it for a second. When did it ever get to be a good idea to open the border and let in tens of millions of people? When did that become a good idea?
It was never a
Okay,
good idea.
it can never be a good idea. It's not a stupid idea. It's an evil idea,
That's how you
Yeah.
and
destroy countries.
that's how you destroy a country from within. You make stupid moves that gives up your sovereignty, and that's what Biden was about. It wasn't Biden. It was who was really pulling the strings on these people, and we know it was China. And we know
Yes.
that China sent over a biological weapon, and we know that China is
Oh,
killing
oh,
our people at infantry age. You know, by what, 100,000 a year in 10 years, a million young Americans have died.
yes.
I mean, that's more than, if you add all the Americans that died in all the wars that we had after the Civil War, that's a million is more than that. It's more
Yes.
than all those deaths.
And
So, yeah,
speaking of China, Fauci knew about what the Chinese nationals transferred from the National Microbiology Laboratory in Winnipeg to Wuhan in March of 2019, which was the Bangladesh strain of the Nipah virus and Ebola and so forth. And they tried to put that down before at the beginning of COVID. But what ended up happening is Dr. Shi Zhengli, that was working with Peter Daszak, the genomic profile that she put out had a genetically modified um, Bangladesh strain of the Nipah virus. They never had that before until they got it from Winnipeg, and lo and behold, it ended up in patients in 2019, and it was put out in the public, and they didn't know about it. Right? They kept that quiet, and Trudeau kept that away from, didn't disclose that when they were having the COVID Select Committee hearings. Right? He didn't release that until later that year after it was done. But that demonstrated that China was up here stealing everything that we have, that was shipping it over there. They were working with people from the People's Liberation Army and so forth. Canada is completely controlled by China, 100%. Sure, they have other people that have foreign influence here, but China, 100%. Most of the control.
yeah, and there are people in prison in Canada for speaking out against the government as well.
Oh, yes.
And to say nothing of their ability to go into your bank account and basically take your money away from you. I
Had
mean,
that
you know,
happen.
that's happening in the U.S. too. Some of the people I talked about in terms of the innocent people that are being prosecuted. I mean, I had a call from a man who had $115 million in his bank accounts. And he ended up pleading guilty to something. He swore to me he was innocent of any of it because he didn't even, they seized his money. And, you know, people like that are at a major disadvantage. People that are that have risen to some extent in society, they've risen because they've certain capabilities. And so what happens is they get help from other people. You know, they get staff. And so take a look at me, for instance. Okay, I'm an attorney and I'm on the top of my game. So, I don't file things in the courts. I have people that can file things in the courts for me, but I write the final versions of the briefs, and I'm the guy that goes to court and makes the arguments and so on and so forth, because that's what I do best. So only I can do that, where other people can do the filing, for instance.
Yes.
But because of that, if all of a sudden I didn't have anybody to help me because the government took all my money, I wouldn't know how to do it anymore. And so these people, these wealthy people, they lose touch with some of the common things, some of the simple things that need to be done, because all of a sudden they're under attack in a way they never anticipated, and they have no money because it's all been seized by the government over nothing. And what they end up having to do is they plead guilty and take sentences. And that's the way it's been lately for the federal government. That's what the DOJ has been doing. They've been forcing so many people to plead guilty that they don't even have trial practice for many of their prosecutors, for the AUSAs, because it's all pled. It's all pleas of guilty, and they threaten things that are just horrendous. I mean, I had
Yes.
a situation where a young family man has young children, and that you either plead guilty now, right now, you either
Yes.
plead guilty to this offense, or we're charging you, we're changing it tomorrow, you're going to get a charge that's 20 years instead of this one that's 4. And we're going to seek that 20 years, and we're going to charge your wife because she's the one looked after your books, and we're going to charge her too, and your children are not going to have a parent to be brought up, to bring them up. So what do? You plead guilty. This is the way our Justice Department has been working, and that's got to stop ASAP.
I
Okay,
I
it just needs to stop.
I agree 100%. Like I've seen this situation here. It's in Canada. It's in the United States. Like I mean, here whistleblowers they drug you. They strap you to a bed and drug you. They did that to me. They did this to another doctor in BC who um, put out that the spike proteins were killing the babies. They threw him in a mental hospital. They drugged him. He's not the same. I'm thankful to God that I didn't end up that way, but they drugged me when I came out with what I did. Right, right. They, right. I
Yeah,
haven't.
I don't know what they did with you. I don't know what you came out with, but it sounds, but you're understanding what I'm talking about, because it sounds like you've experienced it firsthand.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
And yes, and when that happens, it's not that you're alone. You're very alone, because you've got the whole workings of the government against you, and it's very hard to understand why it's even happening to you. I mean,
Well,
look, they have to go after real criminals,
yes.
you know, but you weren't. I take it you were not a real criminal. You weren't committing crimes that
No,
we're all better off if you're behind bars.
I was
So
exposing crime, right? And that was with
yeah,
COVID, and it went right back like the engineering controls. This was the issue, and it started from the CDC. They brought it over here to Canada. Like what they put out is how you would actually spread disease instead of mitigating. And they gave it to a bunch of people who didn't know what to do and said, "Figure it out." And
where are
that's a
you in
huge.
Canada?
I'm in
Yeah.
Alberta, but this was in Saskatchewan where this happened. I mean, they stole my house, everything. Like I haven't seen my youngest daughter for almost 6 years now because of it. Because I said I don't want people to die. Because if I did this, I would go to prison, right? Sensible. I wanted to protect people. That's it.
Well, you did the right thing, you know,
Yeah.
and I think that that's the basic way we need to live our lives. I don't think you can have regret for that, because, well, if you ask me, it's just far better to die on my feet than to live on my knees.
Well, exactly.
Yeah,
Right. And I mean, like, what's the alternative? Take money and let people die? I can't do that. I have a conscience.
right.
Yeah, like Trump
Or
says, you can't negotiate with terrorists.
Yeah, but meanwhile, so you're in Canada, so you're dealing with Carney, but you're in Alberta, which hopefully will. Did they do the vote yet to see whether or not they're going to recede or succeed from Canada?
They haven't done the vote yet. They're going to do it later this year, but there's a lot of interference because if Alberta leaves, Canada will pretty much fold, and they don't want that to happen because all of these globalists, they want to have Canada because they need it to influence the United States. Because if they can keep control of it and then interfere with it, then as they're bringing the chaos actors to do stuff in your country, they can cut off the power, cut off the refineries and all of that stuff to make life more difficult. So they don't want that to happen. So it's obviously going to be pushback.
Well, to say nothing of money. Who's going to afford to pay for everything that the Canadian government wants to do? If they don't have Alberta, when they're robbing Alberta blind from its black gold, from its oil, and other resources. I know they grow a lot of wheat in Alberta. Um, I've visited there. I've been to the Calgary Stampede, and I've been up the Peace River Valley, Peace River area,
Nice.
north of Edmonton.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of well aware of your situation there. But if they don't have Alberta, they don't have any money.
Yes.
You know you know you got the maritime provinces. What are those, like four provinces?
Yes. That's
Nova
Newfoundland,
Scotia, Newfoundland,
New Brunswick, and
New
PEI.
Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island, right?
Yes.
And they all run in the negative pretty well, I think. And then you got Quebec, which is maybe produces more than they spend. You got Ontario, which is a spender. If you don't have Alberta paying for these people, then
Yeah.
you got a disaster for Canada.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
if they take if Alberta separates, Canada collapses completely because most of their industrial workers actually like from other provinces go to work in Alberta, and if Alberta separates, that means Manitoba and Saskatchewan would lose a lot of money because their engineers, a lot of their construction workers, even a lot of doctors and things like that, they all go to Alberta for work. So they would be absolutely cooked, which means Saskatchewan and Manitoba would automatically have to fold as a result, or else they'd lose all of their money. And then BC would be cut off because it's on the coast and it can't survive on its own. It's like the California of Canada. And like you said, there's Quebec and Ontario, but Ontario spends too much, but Quebec spends more than they make. And then the Maritimes are just useless, like islands that are just there that do nothing for the country. So essentially, if Alberta leaves, then everyone is cooked. Plus, they have the tribal nations on top of it, which would have to be renegotiated. And they don't want to do that because then they know they'd have less control and that people would actually be able to do something better. So, yeah, it has to happen. It's going to suck for Canada, but it's the only way to make it fold. And it's a benefit to the United States as well.
Well, right now, Canada is it is a socialist country. I mean, the ideals of the leadership in Canada are just so far to the left. I mean, they're part of they by becoming part of what China wants and so on, as you started saying before.
Yes.
Uh, they're making themselves the enemy of the United States, and I don't think we can tolerate having an enemy so close to to to
No.
us. I mean,
Not.
so.
They are, and they. I mean, like even with the whole IC that they used against Trump at the end of the Obama administration, they followed it here. They picked up the line, and so did some other the Five Eyes countries, and they spoke about this in one of their foreign intelligence committees in Ottawa. Like, I mean, people should pay attention to what they say in the government here because they'll just straight out say it. Because Canadians just take it, right? Like, I mean, when I was younger, 20 years ago, 30 maybe 30 years ago, this would have never flown, but now people just take it. It's so surprising.
Oh, yeah. Um, Yeah, I don't know. We're going to see how it all unfolds. I mean, it's probably
Yes.
going to happen relatively soon this year that something was going to come about. And if Alberta leaves, I could see, then it has two choices: either become part of the U.S. or become an independent nation in its own right. I don't know which way they would go on that, but one way or the other, I think I say in my talk, sometimes I explain to people that, when we're just infants, no, we're not infants, when we're young children and we learn about death, sooner or later we learn about it. We watch a movie, a TV show, or somebody dies, and we learn about death and that we're not on the planet forever. And we start thinking about our own parents, usually as children, that they're going to pass. And maybe there's a little twinge of whatever it is that you feel, but the fact of the matter is that the time you really learn about what misery is when you do lose somebody that you love. When you lose your parents or a brother or a sister or somebody else that you love and are close to, that's when you understand what misery is, because you can't understand it until you feel it, until you're there. And that's what we feel, especially in the first major loss that we have in life. And then we go on. But the fact is, if this happens to Canada, or if the U.S. should ever lose its independence, if the U.S. should ever succumb and have it be taken over one more time, we'll lose it forever. Then every single day you wake up, you're going to know what misery is. At least with death, you get to accept it in time. But with this kind of
It
misery, it's going to be new every day. And maybe this is what Canada needs. Maybe this is the spanking it needs in order for it to realize that it's gone the wrong path and doing the wrong thing. Because it's not standing for freedom for its people. It's not standing for goodness for its people. It's only standing with China, for China right now. And that needs to end one way or the other. Right? If it doesn't end, because they've come to their senses, or Canada, the Canadians have come to their senses and realized that their neighbor to the south is really, their only hope. Then they're going
one
to need to feel some misery, and then they're going to come around.
100%. 100%. I fully believe that the only way that Canada is going to switch up is if America comes and gives them consequences for their actions. And that's what needs to happen. You can feel sympathy for someone for what's going on, but it doesn't mean that there's not consequences for what's going on, because in Nazi Germany, they're saying I was just following orders was not a good excuse. They all got consequences. Even the women who slept with the Nazis, their head were shaved and they were paraded around the middle of the town, and some of them were even executed for trying to sleep with traitors to get safety or whatever. There's no way that we can allow this to go uh unimpeded, because like you said, if America loses some sort of independence because of the encroaching danger that they have to the province to the north, which the founding fathers understood quite well was their greatest enemy, then America will never have freedom again. Like it's, and we know, like, we are Christians, we believe in the Bible, so we know that will not happen. America will stand regardless. But that comes with consequences, and we, the people, getting up and doing what needs to get done to make sure that the people who are responsible for taking those steps actually are pushed in that direction to do that. But that's not going to come from Canada whatsoever, because we're completely taken over by China, like you've been saying. And with that, such a long-standing border and the long-standing relationship between the United States and Canada, especially with the separation of Alberta, they will also have no choice but to join the United States, because they will have no protection whatsoever, and they don't have the ability to stand as themselves as a country. So this can only really go one of two ways.
Yep, I agree with you entirely. Okay. Um,
Sorry, you were going to say something?
so no, I'm just waiting for the next question. Make it, yeah.
Yeah, because we were going to
Give me,
kind
give me some heart talk.
of stuff about with what's going on with Tina Peters, because Tina Peters is being held by the state and they're refusing to do so, refusing to let her out. And then the judge that put her there, and I watched the trial, and I mean, I had to pray because I wanted to say a lot of bad things when I saw what the judge was doing, because Tina Peter was doing what was right, and now they're refusing to let her go, and they're refusing to have let her have any due process or any of this. This is like a bunch of violations. And Article 6 stipulates that the US Constitution, treaties, and federal law are binding on every judge in every state. And he's not following it.
No, and we had a terrible judge in Colorado. We still have him. We just moved to have him disqualified, and he's not. He denied that motion, of course. So now we're going to take it to the Court of Appeals and hopefully have him disqualified there, because it doesn't make any sense to take. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Continue. Go ahead.
Okay, it doesn't make any sense to take this on to that judge that already gave her 9 years and ask for something different this time, because we know what he's going to do. He's going to do the same thing he did last time, or something that's, maybe shave a little bit of time off it, but not enough to make any difference. So no, we have to deal with her situation in the way that we do. So the first thing we're doing is we're going to take that back to the Court of Appeals to review that and whether she can get out on bond pending appeal, which we needed her to do. I mean, she doesn't
Well,
belong in there.
no, she doesn't. And I'm like we said, we're friends with Tina Peters. I met her many times in person when I was in the US, and I even gave my dad's petition for redress of grievance to Lauren Boebert in person. We posted it, the event that I went to and I attended, gave it to her in her hand, talked to her and her aides and everything. That was before they even arrested Tina Peters. And it really bothers me because it's like this was submitted to the state house, and it's like there's so many people, we talk about consequences as well and justice, and it's so disturbing because Tina Peters, she's like, she could be my grandma, like she's around the same age like my granny. She have a gold star son. She was doing her job trying to
She's
protect
79.
the country. Yeah, and she's trying to protect the country. And the people who had this information prior, who sat there and just allowed things to happen, I feel like those people have to come into question too, because they're responsible for Tina Peters' suffering in Colorado. Like something has to be done
Absolutely.
on every level.
Yeah. I think Jenna Griswold needs to face justice. I mean, she violated federal laws, wiping out the data out of the computers, and that's what this is really all about. So, you're right. And, we need an attorney general who's committed to making sure she comes out. That
Yes,
can be done, and it will
because
be done.
this the Senator Mark Baisley, the Colorado senator, took custody of the petition for redress of grievances, which had some issues with the COVID and so forth, and also Tina Peters, all of her evidence. They
She
took
signed it.
custody of it, and that under the First Amendment right to petition for redress of grievances, the obligation was on every single one of those members to at least read it into the floor to determine what was done with it. That did not happen. Like I went back and looked at what the procedures were for petition for redress of grievances from the time the Constitution was written and what they intended with it. And so they all have a responsibility for staying silent and not doing this and denying her right to petition her government for redress of grievances because the judicial system is corrupt. And when that is done, you go and read the Federalist Papers. You have to have the other branches to put it in check. And that's where the legislative and executive come from. When I look at the way that you see this systematic destruction and corruption of the judicial system, this is where you're looking at places like putting people in prison, keeping children harmed. You're looking at state sanctioned domestic violence because you've got criminals operating in the government. This is Article 4, Section 4 territory. This is what I see. Because the only thing is they need to bring the hammer down with the executive to put an end to this and have Congress figure it out. Pass laws.
It's very difficult to do something like that by force, though. You can't. It's very hard to break out of prison. It's equally
Yes.
as hard to break into one.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they need, something has to be done because there needs to be accountability, and there's none. There's no one getting consequences. I mean, we need to have. This is why the law enforcement is important, because without the executive doing their job and arresting them, I talked to police officers here in Canada, and their job was to investigate corrupt police and corrupt judges, and they used to arrest them. Now they all got fired, right? And now you're seeing what you're seeing because there's no more consequences for criminal behavior, right? Really it.
Well, you know, what you're saying is true. We and ultimately we need to get Tina Peters out of prison. She's
Yes.
far more than just an individual anymore. She's an American hero, and her imprisonment is a symbol of the fact that, in a way, we're all locked up, at least in part, by what these people are doing to our country.
Yes, I agree. She needs to be out because if you take liberty from one person, then nobody has liberty. Everybody has privileges. And that's why you have to have liberty for everybody.
Yeah, it's so wrongfully taken from her, and so openly and so well understood.
Yeah.
So I
So
agree with you.
I hope that things go well with her because I mean I put her information in a lot of other places because what was done to her was very wrong. And I was in Colorado before they arrested her when I went to whistleblow, which makes it even more of a bad taste in my mouth because if the stuff that I brought forward in Canada, if they had brought that forward, they would have had to bring the pandemic response to the drawing back to the drawing. Every place I've looked at, they eliminated engineering controls and did it wrong. And that's the first step. And that's like everything is poisoned and tainted as a result of it. This is why the hammer came down on me so badly because they couldn't justify it. And if you look at who did you ever hear about an engineer or an engineering technologist talk about the engineering controls in COVID? I never remembered anybody. And so that was what I brought forward. And even General Flynn looked at my information and said that it publicly that it was a national security concern that needs to be addressed with what was going on because it can any vulnerability. And so that was what I brought forward. And if that would have got done here, and even when I came to the States, instead of taking me into immigration detention and refusing me to bring out that evidence and then sending me back to Canada without due process, it would have been a lot different. And so I'm very angry that they put her in prison. Right? I would have taken one for the team. Leave her alone. She's done nothing wrong. She's 70 years old and was doing what was right. So
Well, you know it. I appreciate your whole thought there, and it makes me think very highly of you because you get it, you understand it, and we just need more people like you to get it. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that just are not mentally with it. They don't even understand what it would be to lose their country, if they don't understand the misery that would be there every single day because it wouldn't be America anymore. And it's not just a slogan. It's not just a name. We're so spoiled. We just don't know that if the forces around us get an opportunity to take our freedoms away, they'll be gone forever.
well,
So
not
thank you so much for
you're welcome.
your thoughts on it.
Not just in America, but the entire world. Because America is what they everybody tests liberty against what America is. If America loses liberty, it's whatever they want it to be everywhere else, and we're going to have it. And it's important that it stays.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for all your thoughts, for having me on. Um, and I just wish me luck. Let's hope I get to be the Attorney General. Let's hope that the things that need to get done. Well, it's not a matter of hope. I'm telling you, I've never disappointed the president before, and we go back a long way to when I first knew him when we were 15. When I uh, in was in Company A at the beginning of the year. All of a sudden, he was transferred to Company A. He was our captain, and he made me a platoon sergeant. And two of us ran the company together. And I've been very close to him since then. Anyway, I've never let him down in that time. We always succeeded with our inspect. We had inspections 6 days a week. It was kind of like a mixture between school and reform school.
Yes.
And you don't leave. You're there 24 hours a day and doing what you need to do. Anyway, I hope I can be in a position again where I can make sure I don't let him down.
Well,
But anyway, with that, I'm going to bid you adieu. I'm running a little late in my next
yes.
adventure.
No worries.
And
Go ahead.
okay, no,
Or
that's it.
I just
Oh,
before you go, how can people reach you? How can they find you?
okay. Well, if they go to Legal Brains, the thing between our ears. But there's a number of lawyers in the firm. So if they went to go to Legal Brains with the plural.com, that's our website. They can find us there. Find me there.
All right, and the links are in the description if you're watching on Rumble, Vocal, Facebook, or YouTube. So you'll be able to find all of his links there. And before you go, I'll close here with a prayer and I'll give my daughter her final thoughts. All right. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. We thank you for the hope that you have given us and the work that you have given us all to do. And bless Peter and his work with Peter Peters and helping the others and helping to restore justice and equality in America for the people who need it, and especially for the children, is my prayer. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen. Thanks for the prayers always, Dad. And thank you, Sir Peter Ticktin, for joining us. It was really awesome. We're going to have you come back again in the future. Hopefully, by that time, you will be AG. And I hope that everybody will go out and support and go look into the work that he does. Is pretty awesome, especially in regards to Tina Peters, because when it comes to freedom, if you take the liberty from one person, you've taken it from everybody. And this is just an example of what these people are going to try and do to everybody. So we have to stick together and come and bring solutions and put our feelings aside to get what needs to get done, because we are running out of time. So the time is now. So anyways, thanks guys for tuning in. We'll catch you in the next one. And to my dear